so that was the story when I wrote my first certification exam. It was within 6 months of my professional journey. And lot of people said that CISSP is not for freshers or early people who are in early career journey. Probably it should be taken when you have completed at least 3 to 5 years in your role. But when I look back at that decision, I feel like it was very good decision that I took that exam at that point of time, because it has given different trajectory to my career. And without that, it wasn't, I believe, possible to be like in Amazon or a like tech giant if that point of time I missed that opportunity. Okay, so we'll start with like why we need to be certified. And a lot of youngsters, especially those who are coming from hacker community, they ask like, is it really necessary? Why I need to be certified? And this is a very common question that I get when I interact with college students or people who are in their early career journey. And my answer to them is, when you select your doctor, right? For example, if you have to go for heart surgery, you don't go for like any normal MBBS guy, right? You go for specialized people. And how do you know that they are specialized? You look at their credentials. So that's how you can know that whether the skills are there or not. So first reason, you want to demonstrate expertise, right? What else you want, like when you think about certification, what is your reason? I want to understand from some of you. What are the other reasons? Sorry? Trust, okay. Validate. Anything else? Sorry, I couldn't hear. Knowledge, okay. Building up capability.
It actually gives us an overview for what I'm preparing and where the market is according to the certification. I can, prepare a structure for my study.
Absolutely, it gives the structure. Standing out of crowd is very important, right? So when you receive CVs, how you filter that? Sometimes people say, how do you know if someone is CISSP is like qualified or skilled? Having knowledge to prove that you have that credential is a different story. But first of all, with those credentials, you are able to like get yourself out of crowd, right? You can be easily filtered out when like there are similar people, when you are applying for a job or when you are applying for a particular role in organization itself or looking for some project. I'll tell you what happened after that CISSP story. I have like some part of that like pending, so I'll keep explaining that. Sir was explaining that it gives the continuous learning for structured learning for a new topic or new happenings in the industry. For example, I'll register for some certification associated with AI, and then because I'll register, it will force me to like complete the study. So sometimes for continuous learning, it helps you a lot. Career advancement, at least in your first like 8 to 10 years of journey, these certifications are really important. And it helps you in advancing in your career. Then credibility and credentials, someone has mentioned that. Specialized knowledge. So sometimes there are some certifications which are highly specialized for that domain. For example, PCI QSA. So I told you about this story, like how I completed CISSP, and within that year, my company was selecting people for sending them, nominating them for PCI QSA. And they selected someone, so the organization that I joined, I was first female employee in that organization, and they were not sure that female employees can do consulting, like travel and all. So they decided to send someone else for QSA training, and it's a high, or I'll say it's a costly certification, PCI QSA. It's a license actually that company has to bear. So they nominated someone, and I was like little furious with that decision, and I went to my CEO and I said that I feel like it's a discrimination. That person has CISSP, I also have CISSP, and I have required qualification to go for the certification. So their initial reaction was like, no, there is cost associated and it requires a lot of travel, especially at that point of time their market was Middle East. So they said, probably not a good idea to spend QSA like funding for you. Then I kept insisting on that, and they said, okay, because you have credentials for this exam, let's go for it. So sometime, for specialized knowledge, you need certifications, and these certifications, certainly some of the certifications are mandatory to perform certain jobs. For example, only PCI QSAs, payment card industry qualified security assessors, they can sign PCI DSS ROCs. Even if you have like CISA or other certification, you'll not be qualified to sign those ROCs. So to do certain jobs, you need these credentials. Networking and community. So if I recall, the best network or people I have connected so far is actually coming from these certification groups when I was either preparing for the exam or when I was like going for, like as a trainer for these certifications. So when you go for these certifications, you go for these like classes or training, you get to connect with similar mind people, and it gives you opportunity to network and connect with similar mind people. And then compliance and regulatory requirement. For a lot of compliance obligations are there for regulated industry. For example, if you have to do certain type of audits for RBI regulated entity, let's assume, you have to be CISA qualified, CISA qualified, and then only you can like complete certain audits for them. If some of you have worked or currently working with Big Fours, you know when your client is reviewing the company profile or your profile, they are looking for certain certifications. So regulatory requirements are there to meet certain credential if you want to complete certain tasks. Like which certification to go for, we'll talk about it, but it depends on what you are doing, what is your like career goal, and based on that you can select which certification need to be complete. And these are some good trainings that I could find. I'm actually currently working on Artificial Intelligence Governance Professional by IAB, and they are one of the known name for privacy related trainings, and they have come up with very nice training for Artificial Intelligence Governance program as well. There is one training that it is coming from ISACA. The cost is like not on very higher side, it is approximately $350. They have training module and then they have exam, very small module. It's not like CISA or their regular exams, but it's a nice course to understand the basics, and then they have some advanced courses as well in that. Then another organization is IAB. They actually have certifications like CIPP, the privacy related certifications, and their certification and training is slightly costly. Their training is approximately $1,200 USD, and exam is approximately $800. But their training module is like pretty detailed and it is good to go for that. And then another one is for business leaders. It is from SANS. SANS is another training provider. It's US based entity. They have done a lot of research in past, and in training and like awareness, they have a lot of modules for different domains and different audience. And the QSAs are actually this QSA credential can be attained if you are associated with a QSA company. So for example, if you're working with some other company, not QSA company, and you want to go for QSA exam, you can't do that. To get this credential, you need to be associated with a QSA company, and then only you can go for the certification. The cost is pretty higher. It's approximately $5K USD. And then they have some other certifications called Internal Security Assessor, PCI Internal Security Assessor. If you are working in an environment where PCI DSS is scope and you are responsible for maintaining the PCI DSS for your organization as an internal resource, this is a good certification. Exam cost and training cost is approximately $4K. lot of big organizations, when I say big organizations like British Telecom or organizations, for them, if the payment data is critical and important, they generally go for this certification and they encourage their employees, at least 1 or 2 employees, to be PCI ISA. These 2 certifications will not be valid if you are not associated with your company. For example, if you drop your company or you change role, your certifications will not be valid. So sometimes people say that, what is the point if I change my job, I'll not be able to maintain that credential, so it's not worth for me. If you're looking for some similar certification, but which you can carry even if you're changing roles or job companies, then PCIP is a good option. Slightly on costlier side, I would say. But in this, they will give you training and exam both, and cost is approximately $2,500 USD. In payment domain, there is an auditing firm called CISA, not CISA, but SISA. They used to be my first employer as well, a lot of respect for them. They started with a training program in payment space called Certified Payment Card Industry Security Implementer. Long back, actually, they started it in 2008. Nowadays, a lot of companies offer similar trainings, but because they started it long back and the trainings that they provide, it's generally 2 days workshop, they come up with real-time examples because they are QSs also and their trainers are also QSs, so the examples, the experience they bring, it's actually from the real world. So I believe this training is pretty good if you are not interested in investing something which is $2,500 USD. This is pretty well. It is in INR, so affordable and good for implementers if you want to start with PCI journey. Okay, so if you are working in healthcare space and you are looking for some certification in healthcare security or privacy space, number of certifications available in this space are limited. There used to be a very good certification from ISE Square. It was Healthcare Information Security and Privacy Practitioner. This will be sunsetting in 2026, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. But this, if you're looking for just knowledge, you can look for their study material, and it's pretty good and structured material, especially if you're dealing with HIPAA related or healthcare related compliances and your company is based out of US, so that will give you a lot of structure. Another one is HITRUST Assessor. Again, it is US-based entity which provides this license. It is not just training, but the audit license will be also associated with it. Cost is on higher side because it's a license cost also involved in that. It is approximately 15K USD. They help you in understanding HITRUST framework for healthcare organization, and they enable you in doing the assessment for healthcare entities where they are looking for HITRUST CSF attestation or assessments. If you're looking for something free, HHS government website has a lot of training and resources. In my first organization, I was really bored with PCI after some time. I did PCI for almost 5-6 years and then I was bored. I wanted to start something and my company was planning to start some business in the healthcare compliance in the US. So they wanted me to do some research like what is required, what they need to do, how they can get the assessments done. This was the one website. It helped me in building the entire practice for HIPAA compliance for my organization. So this particular website has almost every information or everything that you are looking for if you are looking for HIPAA compliance related, security or privacy related, assessment related information. So HHS website, if you're dealing with HIPAA, is must. You should visit it and you'll get a lot of resources from there. If you're auditor, and that's one of the largest, I'll say professional pool that we have in India. If you're starting your career in audit space, you are starting your journey in Big Fours or even with the mid-size or small size auditing firms, then system audit is one of the very basic work that they assign you in first few years. To start with, if you're looking for some certifications and trainings in that space, then CISA is one of the most popular and I'll say trusted certification in the industry. And if you look at the CISA course and content, they have divided their content, or they have spread their content into part where it is focusing on the information systems, and second part is on the auditing aspect. So some of us may be coming from tech background and IT or information security is not a concern. But when it comes to auditing part of it, sometimes you will see a lot of content and a lot of topics which are helpful to understand the audit space better. Who go for CIS exam? Not only techies, but you will see a lot of CAs also decide to go for CIS exam. And it gives them actually a skill set that is required to do financial and non-financial audits, especially people who are in internal audits, coming from CA background, they don't understand technology very well. They go for CISA training and it helps them in building the career for overall internal audit journey. Then we have ISO 27001, sorry for the typo. This is provided by BSI and lot other vendors are there. Cost is like very reasonable, 25K to 50K INR. If someone starts their journey and they say that I don't know anything about security and I want to start somewhere, what you suggest? If I know that someone will not be able to invest enough time and money for CISA, I suggest them to go for ISO 27001. I say that it's a good starting point, it's not heavy investment, but it will give you a foundation where you will be able to appreciate the terminologies associated with information security. Another one is GSNA. It is one of the certifications from SANS. Wherever you see SANS certification, be assured that that will be costly. They are one of the most expensive certification and training providers. But in western side of the world, especially if you're working with MNCs, you'll see that people appreciate if you have like SANS certification. Content-wise, I don't want to like demean them or something, but I'll say that they're good, like as good as ISA Square or ISACA is, but their prices are on like slightly higher side. So if your company is not sponsoring it, don't go for it. Okay, so sometimes people say that I'm in management role, I don't do day-to-day like audits or tech work, but I still want to understand information security. Which one is good one? So I say that start with CISSP. This is one certification. If you have this, you don't need like a lot of other certificate, to be honest. After completing CISSP, I completed CISA, CISM, CRISC, CIBP, PCI QSA, PCI ISA, CIBP. But this is one certification which actually has paid its value or like the return of investment. So if you're looking for just one certificate and if you're confident of your like learning skills and time bandwidth, go for CISSP. It's really worth it, will give you return on investment. This is by ISA Square, US body which provides this exam and certification. Cost is approximately $749 only for exam. If you're planning for it, you may have to budget for like study material and training if you are not like involved in self-study. The cost can go like $1,200 or so. But worth one-time investment, you need to do some like maintenance fee and all, but it's worth. Another exam is from like SANS. It's called GIX Security Leadership. Again, costly exam. Exam fee is approximately 1,300 USD, but worth if you are in senior leadership positions. It gives you a different perspective around the security strategy building. So it's worth if you're in leadership position or if you're transitioning to leadership roles, and if money is not concerned, it's a good certification. Another one is CISM by ISACA. Cost is around only exam cost is actually $760. Again, CISA talks about the audit aspect, while CISM talks about the managerial aspect, the governance aspect, how you build the strategy, how you link it back with information security policies, implementation. It gives you some of the tech plus managerial aspect about the information security. Another one is CRISC. Again, it is by ISACA. Cost is like same as CISM. This is slightly tricky if you're not in risk domain, or like if the risk management is not your core. It may be difficult to relate some of the concept. But if you're looking at roles where you have to take decisions based on the risk, or if you have to understand how you can complete the risk assessment, the complete risk management for your organization, you are working at the strategy piece, CRISK is another certification that can be helpful. Then there are some certificates from other organizations which are very focused on the enterprise risk management. If your role requires enterprise risk management, you can actually go for COSO Enterprise Risk Management Certificate. Cost is slightly on higher side, but it is worth if your role or job requires day-to-day enterprise risk management related responsibilities. This is interesting slide, and a lot of people ask me, and they still ask, like, why you have not gone for like these certifications like CEH or something which is more in nature of like offensive or defensive security. My entire career was actually focused on the GRC side of the world. Some point of time I wanted to like explore this. I did some BABD in my early like career, but I was very sure that I don't wanted to go in that like side. But if your team or you at some point of time are interested in blue teaming or red teaming exercise, these are some of the certifications which are like hardcore tech certification. I would say it helps you in understanding the vulnerabilities, the associated exploits, and if you are in application security domain, these are some of the certification which helps you a lot. Sometimes people ask that which one is worth, CH or OSCP? The core difference that you see, OSCP gives you lots of hands-on experience. So they'll give you a simulation for 24 hours, I think, and then they ask you to give the exploit information, the vulnerabilities in the environment, and you have to like report it based on the simulated environment. So it gives you lots of hands-on experience, while CH is comparatively, I'll say, theoretical exam. And because of some of the, I would not call it that intentional compromises, but how they run their exam, their integrity has been sometimes questioned. Like people have like complicated how the exams can be given. So sometimes CH credentials can be seen with some suspicion, which is like not fault of the entity which is running that, but how like people exploit the like vulnerabilities in the system. Then some other certifications. If you are in software development and you're looking for understanding how to build secure application, ISA Square has very interesting certification called CSSLP, Certified Secure Software Lifecycle Professional. It helps you in understanding how secure coding side of the world works, how you can develop secure applications, and in different phases how you can introduce security. It is not about like vulnerability or penetration testing. It doesn't talk or go in that direction. It talks about how to develop applications in a secure way. Then there are vendor-specific certificates like Cisco Certified Networking Associate, CCNA, one of the very popular certification for especially people who are starting their career in like SOX or NOX, in operation side of the world. One of the popular certificate, and there are other vendors also which provide these kind of certification based on technology, where you are working, you can look for these options. I wanted to talk about privacy also, that if you are like transitioning to privacy domain or already in privacy domain, what are the options? So for privacy certification, one of the core organization which offers the certification is IAAP. Their expertise is actually on the privacy certification. So one of the popular certification is CIBB. In CIBB, they have multiple flavors or versions. So for example, they started with CIPP EU, which was focused on the European privacy and data protection laws. Then they came up with US version, Canada version, and APAC version as well. Sometimes people say that I am not focusing on a specific geography, which one I should go for. I suggest that the concept of privacy is actually stringent and well structured in Europe. And if you don't have geographical, like specific geographical responsibilities, You can go for CIPP EU, which helps you in understanding GDPR and some of the fundamentals for the data protection. But if your role is very focused on privacy, US-centric work, then obviously you can pick for US or APAC based on the role's responsibility. Then they have a very interesting certification, which is privacy technology. So these certifications, the CIPP, mostly legal people and like non-techies were opting for it, and they realized that the technical people are not able to relate with the CIPP content. So they come up with CIPT, which is actually designed for technology people or tech people. They talk about how privacy can be built by design, or what are the methods that you can integrate technology with in the privacy space, or vice versa. This is another specialized field. A lot of people may not understand why we are talking about it. But if you have ever dealt with incidents which has gone to a real breach, and when I say real breach, a reportable breach, then there are certain credentials you need to investigate and report those incidents. Which means if there was an incident in your organization and it converted into breach, and you have to report it to the authorities, and authorities can be based on which regulated domain or country you are. Let's assume you're in India and you were dealing with payment and financial data. You experienced a breach and someone has to investigate your breach. Then that person has to be a well-qualified investigator or incident handler. For payment industry, if there is a breach where payment data is involved, that can be only done by PFIs, PCI forensic investigators. And they charge bomb actually. They really charge high to investigate, because the number of professionals in India for PFI are actually on lower side. So they charge as they want, and their reports will go to payment brands, and it goes to RBI as well, like the specific use case we have taken. Similarly, in different geographies, there are some credentials which are accepted for incident investigation. Otherwise also, to do the forensic investigation in tech side of the world, you need a specialized skill. Even if you're CISSP or CISA, don't assume that you can do a breach investigation. There are some legal aspects that need to be taken care of, and then there are some specific tech aspects that need to be taken care of when these incidents are being investigated. For forensic, there is one exam from the SANS. It's called GIA, Certified Forensic Analyst. This is one exam I would suggest if your core role or responsibility is around the investigation. This is worth to invest. Other SANS certificate, I would say that if you have money, go for it. But this is one, if your role requires regular forensic investigation related responsibility, this is worth to invest in. PCI forensic investigator, if you are dealing with payment domain, or if you are like interested in dealing with the incidents breach investigations in the payment domains or financial domain, then this is one of the good certification. Another technology, very common nowadays, popular one. If you're looking for cloud security, or if you're interested in building the cloud security skill set in your profile, the certifications, there are some vendor neutral certifications which doesn't specifically talk about the specific technologies like AWS or something. They go for like fundamental concepts. CCSP is a good certification from ISA Square. It's a slightly tough exam, I would say. It is one level up to CISSP, and it requires like really good time and bandwidth investment, not just money investment. Similar for CISSP also, you need to invest a lot of time and efforts. But if you're looking specifically for cloud security, CCSP is a good certification. You can like do self-study or take training based on like your budget and your time and other aspect. But this is one certification that can help you in clearing all the concepts related with cloud security, shared responsibility models, how different model works, how forensic investigations work in cloud environment. That is like completely different game altogether. So it gives you very unique aspects related with cloud technology. Before I joined AWS, this was one certification I completed because I wanted to make sure that when I'm joining any cloud company, I have the core concepts clear in my head. It really helped me in like delivering the role that I was doing at that point of time. If you're looking for vendor-specific certification, if you are interested in particular company, or if you are hosting your workloads in particular technology, then vendor-specific certificates are really good. But this is like required when you have like certain plans and objective associated with it. Otherwise, it can be like if you learn something about like one vendor technology, but if you're not using it, it may not be like useful in day-to-day basis. So decide on this based on your plans and what you're using, your responsibility, day-to-day work and responsibilities. Okay, so we talked about so many certifications, right? And sometimes people say like, okay, so many certifications, which one to choose for? When I was writing certification at some point of time, people were saying like, why you are writing? I mean, are you sure that you'll be able to get the return on investment that you are doing? My objective was slightly different. I do self-study. I can't sit in classroom for like training. It's difficult for me. So if I have to study, I have to enroll for exam. So I enroll and then I make sure that I'm studying for like 4 months or whatever time I decided for that certification. So my purpose was to regularly gain the different subject domain expertise and I go for the certification. But sometimes people, like, they have different method of learning and they say that, no, I don't want to go for all these certification and I want to decide which one is good. You can actually take a call based on what is your career goal and a skill gap. For example, if you're very keen in cloud side of the world, you definitely need to take some certifications and trainings which help you in meeting your career goal from where you are. You can also do some like industry recognized certification research. You can understand where to invest your money. And just to be sure, it's not one-time investment. Exam cost, preparation cost is one time. To maintain the certification, you regularly have to maintain their maintenance fee, which is generally annual or 3 years based on the certification you pick, and then you have to maintain continuous education points. So it's actually like ongoing investment. So when you are investing in the certification, take a call based on a proper research. Don't just rush for any certification in hurry. Decide based on what are your plans, what are your long-term goals, where you are, and what you want to achieve. Consider the certifications requirement. Sometimes some certifications, like we talked about PCI QSA, you can go for it if you're like employee of a PCI QSA company. Similarly, if you are not dealing with forensic investigation, there is no point that you invest your time in forensic related certification. So based on what is your like certification requirements where you are, you can decide that. Some of the certification, they have requisites also. For example, for PCI QSA certification, you need to have CISA, CISSP or CISA, like 2 of those. So they have like prerequisite condition to like even go for those certification, you need some prior certifications. Evaluate the certification relevance and value based on the geography. For example, I'm dealing with healthcare customers only in India. There's no point that I go for some certifications which are associated with HIPAA. It can help me in understanding the healthcare space, but actually it will not be the return on investment. So where you are, which market you are serving, which industry you are serving, you can decide on which certification you can go for. Assess the certification provider's reputation and accreditation. This is the basic thing. Don't go for anything and everything, because it takes a lot of money and a lot of time. So when you are investing in certifications and training providers, their credentials or their credibility in the market need to be like researched. So based on that, invest your time and money. And then seek advice from industry peers and professionals, what has worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. Recently, I have seen a lot of people dropping their certification because they are not able to maintain that. It was difficult for them and those certifications were not being very helpful in their career journey. So talk to your peers and colleagues, understand what's working, what's not working, and then take a call based on all these factors. If you choose one out of this, CISSP is really good. Any other question, anything that I can answer?
Regarding the forensic one,
I'll come there, sir.
Regarding the forensic one, the list you have given. Now, I just want to know which companies actually, require those, prefer those credentials. Because before that, the certification you showed for that compliance and audit certifications, some of that activities of that investigation, or if there is any incident or something is carried out, generally those group of people, they are, that's what my understanding in most of the IT companies, they pick up those to do the incident and those this thing. So now, if we go for that certification, how we, how we say that, okay, this is an auditor compliance, this is my PMI, and how it fits, where it fits in within the organization. Are there any organizations that actually value these credentials for investigation?
So in India, if I talk about the forensic investigation companies, there are limited companies. To be honest, there are some certified labs and they hire these professionals. And if I talk about PCI PFI 1, you will see some of the PCI QSA companies have invested in this certification, all the license cost associated with it. So if you're looking for PCI PFI, probably looking at the list of PCI QSA companies can help you. Or if you're looking for other certifications not in specific to payment domain, you can look for the forensic investigators labs, actually certified labs, and they hire these professionals. Limited companies, but they pay really well actually if you have like good skill set in this domain. And then Big Fours also, they have started line of business. At least I know about 2 Big Fours, they started forensic investigation as a practice. So they also investigate the corporate breaches or corporate governance related issues also. For example, if someone has sent some secret information from their laptop, so those kind of also require some investigation. So fraud related activities also go for it.
Hi, good morning all. My name is Surinder. I'm on the role of technical advisor for security. In next 2 to 3 years, I'm planning to change my job profile to product management. So, looking for the certification, what would be the most suitable for me?
Any suggestion or anyone who is coming from product background? So one certification that we talked from ISA Square is for software development related, secure software development one. Related products, right? Even in that domain it helps. I have seen when product managers or product people are being hired, their expertise in secure development helps. There is no certification at this point of time which talks about a specialized skill set for product development in security and network domain, as far as I know. Any other question that we can take? Because please keep check on time.
My name is Rishabh. Can you throw some light on TOGAF certification, like who should go for it, or are there any prerequisites or things like that?
If you're working in as an architect, right, then it's a certificate. So if you're working on enterprise architect or security architect domain, then it's what I have is like. I was thinking whether I should talk about that, but because I have not covered anything around the architecture, so I have not talked about those certifications. But if it's you are in that domain and looking for like building career in as an architect or enterprise architect or security architect, it's worth looking for it. Thank you. Thanks, Vikas, for this opportunity.
We appreciate the insights. Thank you very much. Guys, we need to switch the audio system. There is some problem because we only have one mic and it will take about 10 minutes to fix. Okay?
So next session we will start in 10 minutes, and the session is on CrowdStrike's workshop on AI native platform. And Mr. Gurdeep Gill, regional sales engineer, he will be presenting this session. Okay, so make new friends over here, introduce yourself to the person sitting next to you, and next session will start in 10 minutes. Thank you.
So, how many of are working in the SOC, like managing the security operation or handling incidents? How many of us there in this room? So we have good amount of people. So you have experience in working on SIM tools, collaboration of multiple events, and so on and so forth, right? Great. So if you look, today in this digital era, when we are collecting the logs from multiple other regions, we all see the movies, right? And we have seen one bad guy. If they find one loopholes, they can very easily get into the into the house or treasury and take out your valuable things, right? So the same thing happens when we ingest lot of sources from various other devices, try to collaborate some meaningful outcome. If there is any single missing point, there is always a chance that some exfiltration, some data loss might happen. So overall, if you look into this the journey, we have our threat hunting team, we have our threat intelligence. So we make up. There are different type of adversary groups, right? So the e-crimes, especially if you look into the adversary which are more prone to exfiltrate the data and sell them outside, encrypt the things, right? So the e-crime threat actor, if you look into that, their average breakout time is 62 minutes. When we say average, that means there are threat actors who can be very, very fast, some can be a little slower, but this is the average time. And the mean time to detect that there has been something wrong in our environment, and just to detect that, it can take more than 200 days, right? So that is a very scary kind of a situation that we see day in and day out, which are happening. And this is the number, 2 minutes and 7 seconds, which is the shortest time of an e-crime threat actor that take to get into the environment and start moving laterally. So that we call as a breakout time, right? So time to detect, time to stage, investigate, and then respond. So we have to go through multiple other steps before we even respond to that, right? So what we need is a very fast pace to respond to these kind of attacks when we are ingesting the logs from various other sources. If you look into our SOC today, many of my friends said that they are working on the SOC in this situation. We usually have these 4 or 5 consoles in front of us, right? Where we integrate the tools. The integration results are driven from the correlation rule that we define. And who created that correlation rule, when those rules were created, how old those rules are they relevant in today's threat landscape or not? So these are the questions that we have in front of us, right? And if you all agree with me, what I have seen or what I have experienced is, with those correlation rules which are there in the tools by default and the kind of alerts that we start getting is, majority of the alerts are benign, fake, or some sort of something which we do not want. It's not a high fidelity alerts or the data that we want to work on, right? So a lot of things are manual. And if you look into all the consoles that we need to manage, there is a EDR console, there is a SIM console, there is a SOAR console. We need to integrate the intelligence source from some other place so that what exactly we need to look into. So those kind of details we need. So managing all those consoles differently, and then maybe there is a one single console where all the consoles are collaborating, but that is just stitching the. It's something like you stitch the things, but you still can see the gaps which are there, right? So it's not that efficient. So what CrowdStrike brings is how we can leverage the AI native or the AI platform to work against the adversaries, right? CrowdStrike has always been an AI native company. We are a cloud native company. Since 2010-11, we have been into this journey where we train our AI modules, and so our AI modules are pretty much enhanced. And hence, we are leveraging the same AI module, incorporating into SIM technology, so that we can respond to the any kind of alerts which are high fidelity alert in a faster way. What are the 5 major requirements when we talk about AI native SOC, right? So if you try to think about these, there can be data, how you get the data into your SIM or into a like a consolidated view where you can make some meaningful outcome. If I'm right, in any of the SOC solution today or any of the SIM solution today, we integrate the syslogs from our network sources, proxy, it can be some firewall, some Windows audit log, and so on and so forth. But we ingest the detection log from the endpoint telemetry, only the detections. So when I say detections, if there is a malware, your AV, existing AV that has terminated that file or quarantined that file, and that's it. And that alert is shown in the SIM console. And as a T1 or T2 analyst, what I'm getting is, okay, there was something which we have detected, prevented, and now I have that alert, right? What to do next? That is the biggest question, right? So and any data, any exfiltration which happens, that happens at the endpoint. So whatever the firewalls we have, proxy we have, and any other solution which we have within our perimeter to get the data to the endpoint. End of the day, the attacker's goal is to get into the endpoint and get the data out. The damage is happening on the endpoint. It can be laptop, it can be server, it can be cloud infra, whatever. So what we are doing here is very easy way of integrating the data. You already have Falcon solution or the Falcon sensor installed, which will collect the telemetry, and you can integrate various other sources, right? So you already have that rich telemetry which is required to investigate something on the endpoint and make the collaboration with your network events, right? So you can see the entire big picture. Second important thing is how accurate your AI is and how accurate your detections or the alerts that you're getting in, right? Adversary-driven detections. So CrowdStrike is an adversary-driven organization. So we have around 300 plus, I think 340 various threat actors, which are state-sponsored, e-crime, and some hacktivism groups, which can be a terrorist group or anything which target the organization. So we have plenty of, we have good number of adversaries where CrowdStrike look after them, what is their modus operandi, what vulnerability they are exploiting, how they are, getting into any organization, tools, techniques, and procedure, including all the IOCs, right? So we monitor everything, we know their modus operandi, and we kind of use that data into all our solutions which are there in the platform. I'll come to the platform slide a little bit later, but that's how we train our AI, right? So the alert that you see, even if you start ingesting the data without having any correlation rule, you will still get the alerts because we have something technology called machine learning and IOAs, indicator of attack, not the compromise of indicator of compromise, but indicator of attack before the attack has happened, right? So that gives us a very high fidelity data to work on. Third thing is how you respond to something, how you respond to the incident. So there are two major use cases that I have seen when we integrate multiple solutions. One is obviously the compliance part, right? So the requirement is to keep the log for a certain amount of time, and your auditors are happy with that, right? So that is one part. But if you are ingesting the data, end of the day, your team, the SOC team, IT team, or the security team is responsible to give the explanation about some incident. And how many will agree with me that majority of the time if the incident happened, we spend most of the time with the Google Sheets? That's what actually I have seen that, when we have the member of 5 or 10 people working together on an incident, okay, incident happened, we worked on it, we take the solution, we manage the things, but end of the day we need to present the report. And that, how many days it will take to create the report, right? So, I'll show you in the demo how we can leverage these things. But the point here is how collaboratively as a team you can work on one incident, visually seeing that incident. that how, okay, there is a one machine, there is a one user, it clicked on some phishing mail or something and it exfiltrated, it kind of, spawned the PowerShell or whatever, and how you can visualize that, take some responsive actions, collaborate with your team, add comments, add your observation and all those things together in a single console, right? It gives you a timeline view, the real-time collaboration and all those good stuff that you can think about when there is an incident, how you respond to that, right? Another important factor is how you can create the automation to respond to something. Okay, there is one user which was involved in a particular incident. Now that user is compromised. So the first thing what we need to do is, we need to reset the password for the user. So that if that user has already logged into other systems, at least he will not be able to do something because the password is now changed, right? So how you can automate that? So that has to be seamless. And while working on that incident workbench, you should be able to click and take that response action. It should be that easy, right? So that is something which we bring it an effortless way of automating the things in the response action. Very, very important, threat intelligence. Whenever we have a SIM, we integrate the logs that help us to manage our compliance problem, right? But unless you have, for example, even if army is deployed to win against any war, you need an intelligence to where to fire, how the attacker is coming, right? What are the IOCs? What are the possible things I need to look into? What is their modus operandi? What is their tools and technique? So all these things is the intelligence part which you need to feed into your SOC or the SIM. Without that, it will be like firing everywhere, right? And this you need to buy it separately. And again, that integration, how good that integration is, I'm not going to that area, but this is something which is one of the major requirements that we need. Collectively, what CrowdStrike says is, we bring it collective, rich telemetry from various sources at a scalable position, right? So if you look into the data, every organization is growing, and it's all about the data and data and data, right? So how you manage, if you want to take some meaningful output from the data, how quickly you are able to write a query and take the meaningful outcome. How quickly you are able to make that information into a visualized format so that you can see and make some sense out of it. How quickly you can create something which you can see in the real time happening, right? So that is something, the real time monitoring and collaborating part will come into play, right? So all these things comes together is something which CrowdStrike brings, additional power booster to the SOC operation team. So how can we elevate, or how can we, pull up the entire SOC operation? In my journey of all these years, at least from last 15, 17 years, I have seen there has been no differentiation in terms of how the SIMs are managed or how the SOC operation is being conducted, right? It is the same SIM solution where you collaborate the data, you take the meaningful outcome, and it is solely reliable, dependent on the rules or the correlation rule that you have. And who creates those correlation rules? Either the OEM or somebody who is experienced, and he trains the next generation, he trains the next generation. Almost the same type of correlation rule we have. What we don't have is something which is typically how the threat landscape is changing. What the techniques are changed, or what the techniques are utilized by the adversary, and how we can enrich that information to take the meaningful outcome, right? So that is what the CrowdStrike tried to bring in. We have a solution called LogScale. So LogScale was basically, when we acquired Humio in like 3-4 years ago. I'm sure you must have heard about Humio. So that was acquired by CrowdStrike, and that was renamed as LogScale. And the LogScale, upon the threat detection and response capability, combined together, where we not only work on the first-party data. First-party data is the CrowdStrike data. CrowdStrike itself has multiple solutions. So how you can integrate that with the third-party data? It can be your any firewall. It can be any network device or any other sources that you have in your network, right? Combining together, making some meaningful outcome, automation inbuilt into it, alert and management part. So this entire thing together makes a solid foundation for the next gen SIEM. So if you look into the requirements, when we work in that particular SOC operation, right, we have a different requirement. From the SOC analyst perspective, he is responsible, either it's a L1, L2, he is responsible to do the threat hunting part. He is responsible to work on the incident, right? He needs to have that visibility, what action he need to take, the automation of those actions. So this particular SIEM, the NG SIEM which comes together, will give that requirement what an analyst analyst needs are, right? The same admin needs will be different. He will be more concerned about how to integrate the data, how to bring the data onboarded, install the collectors, various rules, correlation and all those stuff. He will be more interested into how to bring the data. So ingestion of the data part is also sort of, made it seamless. Threat hunter, level 2 analyst. There is an incident, he found something, now he wants to do some further investigation, what that incident did, what it has done, what was the username, what are the other places that user have logged in, whether he has executed something, PowerShell or whatever, right? So those are some certain requirements which as a threat hunter he will look into, right? So that is another feature set. And if you look into the what the management would like or the CISO would like to see is what outcome he is getting, what value he is getting. He will not be interested in looking into, okay, these are the things I have searched and this is the hunting queries, or he will not be interested into that. But something with meaningful outcome, he can visually see some, some value out of it, right? So all these things combined together, CrowdStrike AI SOC, which AI SIEM, we power the solution, right? If you look into today, the CrowdStrike platform, we have a single agent, a single sensor, right? That single sensor is deployed on the endpoints. I will show you later. There are around, when you install such a solution, the question will be like, what are the sources I need to ingest the data from, right? We know we are following the same thing, but if you look into the MITRE framework in their website, there are certain, tactics and technique they have, they kind of listed it, and, all the adversaries, what they are doing, what are the techniques they are exploiting. So they have listed everything. On an average, any SIEM solution that today we have in the market is capturing around 16% of the entire tactics techniques, or the behavior, I would say. Falcon sensor alone, without any third-party integration, is capable to respond to at least 39% of the behaviors that, or the tactics that the adversaries are using, without any integration, right? So this single agent is deployed on all the sensors. So the second part is the threat graph, intel graph, asset graph, so that all these things are, we use the graph technology, so you can see all the things, visualize how a system is connected to another system. It helps in the lateral movement, understanding what would be the next asset which can compromise, or which user we need to take action proactively, and all those good stuff. Intel graph, feeding the intelligence data from CrowdStrike Intelligence to all the modules that we have today. And workflows, automation, and all those things. So these things are already a part of the platform. So you don't need to, spend any penny extra for this, but you get it with the platform when you're going with the Falcon Enterprise. These are various solutions or the modules that CrowdStrike offers today, right? So you are aware about the EDR, right? CrowdStrike is a leader in EDR technology. ITDR is Identity Threat Detection and Response. If you look into all the breaches that happened lately, especially towards the end of the COVID era till now, all the breaches, almost all the breaches, they are originated from stolen identities or the stolen credentials which are found in the dark web. So there are access brokers in the dark web. So they are typically focusing on the identity theft, and they sell those identity data in the dark web. So the larger attacker groups are utilizing that data to do the larger attacks, right? So cloud security, again, as the digital transformation is happening, we are moving our data centers, we are moving our servers, application operations to the clouds, various clouds. So CrowdStrike provide a complete CNAPP security solution for the cloud security. And not only this, with a single console, you can manage if you are on a multi-cloud setup, like Azure, GCP, or AWS. So you can integrate those collectively, and you can get a complete prevention and the visibility from the compliance, and we also map it with other compliance frameworks, etc. Next-gen SIEM, we will talk more about it. I'll show you in the demo as well. Data protection is how your data is flowing from inside to out. It's another way of naming it DLP solution, but it is how, like if you are starting the journey towards the DLP, your major goal will be how you can protect your data flowing internally to outside. Nowadays, people are smart. They copy the data and paste it in the draft mail, and they can take that out in that way, right? So it still have a couple of other features which can really help you in how you're sending your data out. For example, if we have our organization email ID with Gmail, for example, or drives, various drives, Google Drive, Box Drive, etc. The data can be only allowed to send it to a particular drive or a particular, the company's email ID, but not to your personal Gmail. So those kind of differentiation, how your data should be controlled, how it should be flow, we can pretty much do that part. Exposure management is a bigger umbrella. Underneath that, we have something called discovery, which provide you the visibility of all the assets, the asset graph which I've spoken about, accounts, especially the failed login attempts. Think about a brute force attack and you don't know what is happening from where it is happening. If within a very short span of time, if there are multiple attempts to log in and those logins are failing, so there's something fishy, right? You would like to investigate. You might want to know which is the source, what is the source, and from where that authentication fails are happening. So those kind of visibility. Any application installed, for example, you want to check it out if anybody is using any kind of VPN in your environment, any kind of P2P application like a torrent or some other things, right? You want to check if those things are there in your environment. So you can check that. Second part is EASM, External Attack Surface Management. How your environment can be looked from an attacker view. If you have like 50 server hosted which are internet facing, and maybe you are hosting a web application or some sort of applications there using Apache or maybe anything for that matter, whatever is exposed to the internet and attacker can see that, we will give you that details. If there is any vulnerability which can be exploited, those kind of information will come. The third part which comes is how your view look from inside to out, right? What are the vulnerabilities you have? There are a lot of tools which gives the vulnerability data, but they map it with the CVSS score, right? So here what we do is, our threat intelligence is fed here. So we also check which vulnerabilities are exploiting in the recent time. So it's not about the CV that you need to fix, it's about prioritizing, because every Tuesday you're going to get that Microsoft bundle about all the good stuff that you get and you need to spend a lot of time, and after 3 months or 6 months you will get the schedule to push the patches. So I don't see there is any organization who is up to date with all the patches, But how you can control, how you can prioritize which vulnerabilities are exploiting right now, attackers are using that, and let me focus on that. Let me focus on my critical assets. I can tag those assets as critical, which are my, maybe the internet-facing critical servers, right? So I can prioritize, I can see what is right now being abused, and I can focus on solving that on priority, and then later on I can work on it. IT automation, again, this is an attempt to close the gap between IT and the security team. Most of the time, if you have that kind of a structure where there are different towers managing the things, IT team will say, okay, this is not my job, security team will say, this is your job, and there is always a conflict. So there's an attempt to solve that, because within the same console, you can actually, there are a lot of pre-built queries available, and you can create your custom query. You can ask for anything. For example, maybe there is a, SMB v1 which is being exploited multiple times with multiple threat actor. You want to check if there is SMB v1 enabled in any of my systems. I have 1,000 systems. I want to check that. How would you check that? You can simply ask a question. You'll get the answer, and you can automate the response. Action. That means, let's say I want to modify a registry to fix that problem, right? SMB v1. So what we can do is we can write a script. We can create a query. That automation will work. And once you run it or schedule it, it will take that automation action on those machines where we have found that vulnerability or that exposed, the result of that query basically, right? If there is any browser extensions, how would you check if there is any malicious browser extension? You can write a query and you can check. Certificates, expired certificate. If you come to know about any advisory report that, okay, there is a certificate which is compromised, you want to check if that is found in any of your systems or not. This is the tool which you can use, right? Intelligence, we perform various activity in the intelligence part where threat intelligence is one of our core modules. We do a dark web monitoring and many other things on the intelligence part, and the data which we collect is fed into all our technology. So if there is any IP we find, making a connection to the outer world, it's a C2 IP or a domain. If that is associated with any threat actor group, we'll give you the details that, okay, this is associated with this threat actor group also does this, and this is the vulnerability this can exploit. So better you fix that, because we have seen that communication happening from your environment, right? So collectively, we have all these modules live today, with our platform offering. CrowdStrike also have services. It can be incident response services, red teaming, blue teaming, tabletop exercise, etc. Because a lot of organizations need that kind of visibility. Managed threat detection and response, cloud detection and response. So these are our services. For example, if you have a lean security team, you are not a company who is primarily focused on IT, you do not want to invest too much on managing the things, we can manage the endpoint security for you, right? And that too with a couple of other benefits that you see around. And our threat hunting team. So we have a very large threat hunter teams, covering round the clock. And they all are DFIR certified. So, and there are certain, CrowdStrike certifications as well. So they are pretty much experienced guy. So basically what you are doing is, with this service and with the managed threat hunting services, you are actually leasing the CrowdStrike assets and they are working for you in a way, right? And I have seen there are a lot of companies where, with the last one, the managed threat hunting, so before, when the adversary try to do something, right, we all have some sort of AV solution in our companies, right? But still, companies are getting breached. Very, very known, renowned companies are also getting breached, because adversaries are not downloading any additional file to exfiltrate or to do any kind of command and control connection. They are using the in-house tools and techniques. PowerShell can be used by the administrator and it can be used by the attacker as well. So how it is used, that is the whole point of detecting it, right? And that's where our IOA technology shines up, right? So that's the reason we have all these things, and upon that we have introduced Charlotte AI, which is our, we all use generative AI, ChatGPT and a lot of other things, right? You just write a command and it does the things for you. Something similar. For our platform, we have this Charlotte AI. What happens with Charlotte AI is, you write a command. Let's say you have 1,000 system. You want to check, am I vulnerable to log4j? Enter. It will give you a list of all the hosts, if there is any log4j vulnerability. You want to check for any, your state of your environment, how critical your systems are, if there is any critical vulnerability or not. You can ask, it will give it to you. Another use case where we have seen Shallot AI working well is, it is also integrated with our ngSim. So let's say if there is a L1 engineer who found something, but he don't know to write a query to search some additional data. So he can ask the Shallot AI and it will give you that result or a query. Either you just click, it will take you to that screen, or you can just copy paste that query and run it. So it makes the life very easier when you're thinking about doing a lot of, too much of work in a very short span of time. That's what, the generative AI helps us in speed, right? So this is the entire platform offering that we have today from CrowdStrike. How does this help us? If you look into the generative AI, I just mentioned about the speed. So speed is something where, the AI helps, and better decision making. In a nutshell, if I have to combine what AI will does for us is speed and better decision making. If you remember that number, the shortest time for the e-crime threat actor to make a lateral movement in the environment is 2 minutes 7 seconds. So that fast the adversaries are, right? So on an average it was like 67 minutes, but still you need to respond faster, and AI help us to speed up that pace. Recently, 2 weeks ago, there was a MITRE test which happened for how the SOC is acting quickly, right? Mean time to detect. So this is the result of that MITRE testing, where CrowdStrike detected the mean time to detect was 4 minutes. I have spent a couple of years in this industry, but I have not found this result. But this was third-party testing results, which you can see, right? And there are a couple of other vendors where that is also mentioned. So you can find it in the MITRE page as well. So in a nutshell, what we do, we aim to stop breaches. Today's attacks are not file-based attacks. File is delivered at the very end, right? So first the attacker will leverage some vulnerability, some sort of link, they will access to your environment, they will make the call home, they will use your internal tools and techniques to do a lot of damage, and towards the end they will download some payload to encrypt the data or to do some Bitcoining activity and a lot of other stuff, right? So we are aiming to stop the breaches so that your lateral movement, your initial access is also stopped, right? Response time, I have shown you what is the capability of the same. The mean time to detect is very, very important in this kind of adversarial behavior. We need a very quick time to respond. And of course, everybody looks after how we can reduce the costing. And if you remember in one of the slides I have shown, the core data that you need to have to do a threat hunting or to find anything in detail is your endpoint telemetry data, because end of the day the attack is happening on the endpoints, right? So if you try to ingest that data into your SOC, maybe that entire endpoint telemetry data will be close to 50% or 60% of your entire data stack today. So that is an additional cost. But with Falcon, this data is already available with us free of cost, which comes with your license. So we already have that data. You don't need to invest on this. And we can ingest the third-party data. The costing will be only for the third-party sources data size and till what amount you want to store the data, right? Maybe 30 days, maybe 180, maybe 1 year, 2 years, whatever. Once the data is ingested, we have a lot of things which works under the hood, parsing, enriching the data with our telemetry, correlation, and a lot of stuff, and then we give you a lot of good outcomes which you can leverage. You can integrate with other solution, ticketing solution, and so on and so forth. So capabilities are endless. This is just a very high level, flow data. How there are various sources. It can be Falcon telemetry, it can be network, application, even the OT devices. These are pretty much ignored or missed every time, OT setups, in case you have it. But a lot of companies, they, either you talk about pharma, you talk about any automation, you have the OT devices, right? Or even from, some third-party cloud integration tools like Cribble, CloudStream. You can integrate the data, parse it, process it. So this part will happen within the solution, and you can take the data out to existing SOAR, or we have our inbuilt SOAR, investigate incident, and multiple other things, right? So this is the very high-level architecture, how the things will happen. I talk a lot about threat intel, right? So threat intelligence is one of the core component which you need to ingest, or you need to have the data. And this is a last year report from Gartner. CrowdStrike is the only vendor which is there in the intelligence in the top right leaders, right? So that's the reason we are very proud and confident about our intelligence. CrowdStrike started from incident response. We were never into the endpoint security directly. We started with incident response. We started collecting the intelligence information. There were two major companies who were there. When something get breached, we come in, we help them to come out of the breach state. So that's how we start building the the intelligence data. So that's the reason we have very rich intelligence data. Lot of time I have seen customer calls us and tell that, okay, I have received this advisory report from Falana cert, and am I protected? But if they can also search it on themselves, that they will see that before you get that advisory report, we have already taken action like 2 days before, or when the things happen. Again, this is a Forrester Wave certification for cloud, but this is for the cloud security. We are again leaders over there. But again, if you talk about the SIEM as a solution, the major focus area is the first and foremost how you can integrate the data. So we try to make that seamless as possible by having our connectors. So you can simply connect that API and get the data feed in, right? Detection quality, not the the benign alerts, but the actual alerts where you need to take some action, or the more high fidelity alerts. Quickly triaging, investigation capability, automation, and integration with multiple other solutions. So this is the core. What we try to solve is with a one platform, right? It's not a stitchable platform that you integrate multiple other things and you stitch it together, but it is more like one single platform which give you a lot of capabilities to function with a single sensor. So again, you're not deploying multiple agents to have another capability. It's the only single sensor. Best security, and you get the superior performance with having that platform approach. Another important thing which I want to highlight here is the speed. The solution itself is capable, and if you compare it with any existing solution in the market, we are 150x faster. When you try to pull out some data, when you are running a query, in one of my organizations where I worked in the past, we used to write a query, and that query will take, we go on a break or maybe a lunch break, and after that we get the result. And sometimes we have to schedule it because it's the end of my shift, and I want to send the data. I will schedule it so that the results will come in my email. So if the query is lengthier, if the query is complex, certainly the solution will have some sort of bottleneck from where the query will not go unless those things are solved, right? So with the LogScale as a solution which works in the backend, so CrowdStrike itself is a big company, right? We ingest trillions of data per day, and we process that. We had a legacy solution at the back end for our data processing, which we have replaced it. And we have replaced not only for CrowdStrike, for all our customers. So that's the reason today, if you do any search query, if you try to even run a complex query, we can give you the real-time alerts, and the query is much, much faster, right? So we'll take a 2 minutes hold, and then we'll see the solution. I was talking about the data sources that we need to have it in our solution, the integration and whatever, the way we can get it, right? So this is where MITRE talks about all the data sources. For any particular activity, you need to have the data coming from, either from AD, application, asset. So all these data, like if you install our sensor, you don't need to install anything else, or you don't need to have any Sysmon logs integrated from any other ways. Our sensor will work for that, right? Application, certificate for cloud services. If we have the sensor on the cloud asset, it will do the job. Containers, domain, drivers. For firewall, we need a firewall integration for sure, because our sensor doesn't work on firewalls, definitely. Firmware, groups, images, internet scan, malware repository, our threat intelligence will come into play here by default. Network shares, so this data will come from any of the network device, or how the shares are connected from the OS itself. Sometimes you don't even need any other modules to integrate the data other than the sensor. For these things, script, again, a lot of time we see either a JavaScript or, once the user click on something flashy, the scripts run in the backend, which is completely a fileless stuff, right? So this, how will you monitor this? How will you ingest this data? You need endpoint telemetry for that. So if you have the Falcon sensor, it is going to collect that any which ways, right? Services, user accounts. Again, for user account, you don't need to, integrate any event viewer data or the Sysmon data. Our sensor will collect those kind of details. So this is a list which MITRE says that you need to have this capability. And this is something I was talking about, that if you integrate today in the existing SIEM solution, they integrate only 16 to 17% of these techniques. CrowdStrike, without any third-party integration, just with the Falcon sensor, we collect around 39% of this. And what is missing is something which is there in the network side or on the email side or other, and that you can integrate it together and you can get the data out. So this is how the Falcon console looks like, and I was talking about multiple solution. So if you see here, you have the NGSIM part here, your Charlotte AI is there, endpoint security is there, your firewall, forensic data, you can configure the policies, cloud security. Identity protection I will touch base, because this is again one of the important area where I see a lot of focus is being driven here. Even Gartner mentioned that identity, some solution around identity is going to be must in the coming days, especially after this COVID era, the way the threat landscape has changed. If you think about some time back, there used to be AV solutions, right? Then endpoint protection suite came into play, right? And somewhere in 2016, I believe, the EDR name was coined, and somewhere around 2019, the EDR solution started selling, right? So the next, what I think, or what I kind of can make sense out of it is the identity protection is something which is going to be common in the coming time. So we will touch base on that as well. Again, I was talking about the exposure management. So you get the asset visibility, account, application, vulnerability, a lot of other stuff, right? We have this option where we do a lot of other stuff like, threat actors. I'll show you this maybe. This would be a good way to check. Malware family, indicator, vulnerability intelligence. So we have a lot of details around, and this is what I was talking about, the intelligence part, right? So you have Recon, which is your dark web monitoring, external attack surface, sandboxing and all those stuff. Investigate is our solution, which is, you can also call it as EDR. But Investigate is what, there was a tool called Visibility, which CrowdStrike used back in those days when we were doing the incident response. So the idea behind is you deploy the tool, you collect the telemetry, and then you investigate for what happened and how the things have happened, right? So that was for the visibility tool, but later when in 2016 the term coined, the EDR term was coined, we changed the name to Investigate, because it helps in investigating. But we had the solution from a very long time. And if you look into any other vendor, they start developing the tool after 2016, right? So that is again a huge difference. then we'll definitely deep dive onto the SIEM part. Let me just show you this. So if you see here, there are 243 total threat actors which we monitor today, and we know everything about them. If you check different motivation that can be state sponsored, these are state sponsored are mostly which are targeting the government organization. For example, any government organization like maybe railway, maybe ISRO, maybe our nuclear plants, and so on and so forth. So it's not that they only do that, but they can, if they get a chance, they will exploit any other company too, right? Criminals are mostly, they are focused on getting the money out of it. They have no other agenda. Mostly all the ransomware, threat actors or crypto miners and all those stuff falls into this play. Hacktivism will come where any adversarial, any attacker group or any, for example, after this Philistine and Israel thing which was happening, lot of Iran-based adversaries started targeting Indian organizations. And in the last year itself, there was an increase of 34 threat actors which are cloud focused. For example, earlier what happens is, if a threat actor get any chance to exploit any of the environment, they will just go ahead and they will do whatever they need to do. But we have seen in the last year, there was a global CrowdStrike Global Threat Report as well. You can visit that. There are 34 threat actors which are targeting only the cloud infra because they know what value, a lot of assets or a lot of critical information are visible or available in the cloud. And not everybody is aware on protecting the cloud in the right way, right? Again, you can filter it out with other, filters like country, industry, and you can also see the last activity date, right? So all those details will be available. These are various threat actors. I'll jump onto this little later, but we'll come back to this page maybe a bit later, right? So if I have to, let me just go back to NGSIM. So when we go to NGSIM, there are major three components. One is your data onboarding part. You need to onboard the data. That is first and foremost thing, right? And then you need to have a place where you can run a query. You can search very quickly. So you have, advanced event search options. Detection and incident is there. I'll open this. We have, the concept of correlation rule is mostly, since the SIM was evolved, you have the correlation rule. So that means unless you do not have the correlation rule, it will not give you any meaningful data outcome, right? So your dependency is there on the correlation rule. And one thing which we have observed is, with the correlation rule, they are not covering the today's tactics and techniques which we have seen in the latest time, right? What CrowdStrike does is, without any integration, without any correlation, if you integrate your multiple sources, you will still see the detections because that is coming out of the box from our IOAs, indicator of attack. So basically that is not our focus area, that you need to have a correlation rule for must, but we do have a provision where you can create the correlation rule for any custom requirement, and there are a couple of out of the box correlation rules available as well. So a lot of connectors are there, easy way of integrating the connectors. And if you go to the connectors here, it will show you all the connectors from where your data is coming. It will show you the how many data sources are ingested. You have parsers. If there is any connector which does not receive the data, it will automatically alert you in 24 hours, but you can customize the timing. So if there is any connector who is not receiving the data, you have the alert, and you can configure this alert to receive in your email as well. So something is wrong from the data sources. I'll go to this part here. So this is how your detections will look like. You will get the detection basis on your correlation rule or multiple other techniques. You have a quick filter here. So if I go to this quick filter options, my mouse. So you can, if it's a L1 analyst working on and he's looking after the detection, he can quickly filter it out basis on the severity, basis on when the detection was triggered, assigned, new assigned. And this is pretty much common, like, everywhere you will get this. But there is another filter which will help you is the mapping with the MITRE framework, right? So let's see that the level 1 analyst is working on a solution, and the detections are mapped, right, with the various techniques which we have observed in the environment. So let's say we have seen multiple other techniques or multiple other detection. They can see, like, there is a process injection detections we have seen. So you can again filter it, what is the recent time I have seen. But you can see, like, the credential dumping is happening. So possibly I will jump on to something which is more critical, something like the credential dumping, or maybe, the exfiltration, or my data is going out, so I need to stop that, or maybe I need to contain that system, I need to isolate that system, right? So I can select that filter, I can apply that filter, and basis on that I will jump on to only those detection where I see the data exfiltration is happening. So the mapping with the framework helps us in how easily you can maneuver, you can focus on what you want to look into, and take charge, take control of the situation, right? Then we have this incident. So with the help of the way the detection happen, if those alerts are from a single incident or happening on a single system, automatically there will be one incident automatically. You can select, if you are an analyst observing a couple of things, you can definitely select different events, different alerts. Let me just change this view. So you can select multiple and you can create an incident. You can triage it from here. For example, if I want to triage it, I have multiple options to change the status, or I can assign it to my team or an individual so that they can look into that. So that way the triaging option is also available, or I can just build them into an incident, right? So again, if I go to an incident view, let me show you one more thing here. So here, if you see, you have a lot of option to filter it out, and I think there is a vendor, and you can see if the data is coming from multiple other sources as well. So it's not only that your endpoint data, but how for example, if there is anything come into it, it is compromising your network layer security and other parameters, right? And end of the day, it is expanding or exploding on your endpoints. So how everything is correlated, and what are the activity we have seen from multiple sources, that together you can combine it and see it as well. And this you will see in the incident view also. If I go back here in the incident, this is one of the major core area where we see there is a challenge, because there is always a problem to address, detect, and how you respond to anything, right? The whole idea of having a SOC is how quickly you can respond to any kind of security events. So here we see a lot of incidents, it will pop up like this. And if you go to any of the incident, for example, let me just check one. This one, the correlation, okay, this is coming from email and some other stuff. So I can go here, it will show me all the details here, and I can go to the full incident view also, right? So let me just check. So once I click on the full incident view, it is going to take me to this workbench, right? So this is where the analyst can collaborate together, and if you see in the top right, multiple analysts can sign in and they can work on this. This is very interactive. And before I jump onto this, I want to go to the details view here. So whatever the information we have gathered from all the different sources, we will give you the list of all the indicators here, right? And all the hosts which are involved, the user which are involved. And again, from here also you can take the, any sort of action. For example, you want to move this user to a watch list, you want to restrict this, or you want to enforce a password reset and so on and so forth. So the action, the remediation action or the control action, you can take it from here as well, right? For example, if this is the host and you want to take some host action, you can contain those hosts, you can isolate that host from the rest of the network. And you can also see, what are the actions are being taken over there. All the IPs, so basically you are getting all the needful information that you need for investigating all the files involved. And if you see here, you can integrate with other intelligence sources as well. For example, let's say you have already the subscription from VirusTotal, and you want to see if any of these indicators are associated and found in the VirusTotal. You can simply integrate that part here, right? OpsSWOT or any other solution as well. So it will give you that entire visibility and flexibility to interact and collab with the third parties, right? Coming back to the workbench, this is one of the, so you can expand it. Let's try to make some sense out of it, right? Okay, if you see there is a particular user, there is a Word file, there is a system where the user is logged in, right? And there is some sort of phishing attachment, right? So it gives you that view that, okay, in this system, this is the user who is working, and this user must have clicked on some phishing attachment which opened in a Word file, and this phishing attachment is also connecting to various other things like a malicious script where it is located. If it is, so this is what I was talking about, the intelligence part. So scattered spider is one of the adversary. So this technique is used by one of the attacker called scattered spider. So if there is any intelligence information from this, it will also pull those kind of information out. It will give you more details. Is this making any connection to any other IP? You will get that part, right? So for example, let's investigate more on this user, right? If this is my user, I want to tell my team to work on this. So maybe, so there are a couple of comments which are already made, so I can see those comments by other analysts who are working on this. But let's say I want to tell somebody to take some action or find this user if, this can be found, it is available, or it is logged into any other assets or not, right? So I can see, can you investigate the payload, or I can respond to this, so somebody can respond as well that, okay, noted, checking the same, or whatever the findings are, right? They can post it. And all these people are collaborating together to work on this incident, right? So multiple team members can join together and start working on this. So, for example, and one more additional information is here, you get all the automations which are created for this. So this user is there, we know there is a phishing email, he is connected, and this is also not only just making the connection to somewhere else, but it is also exploiting some sort of PowerShell, and which, sort of downloaded some file which identify, and we have blocked that file, right? So all this information what you are getting here is actually happening and executing on your endpoints where the final attack has detonated, right? So multiple things are happening there. You are collaborating and working together on this particular incident. You want to add some further more information, that also we can do. So this is the host. If I want to take some action on this host, it will tell me a quick view about this host, that it is offline or online, what is the status of the OS, is it out of support or not, and here the details of that, and what are the other things other actions we can automate and we can take, right? So it will give you a lot of options here to contain or to, if I have to click here, it will take me to that automation page which was created to take some action. So these actions can be on demand, or these can be automated as well. So for example, I find something, then I want to take some action, so it will be on demand, and then I can execute it from the same screen where I'm investigating or working on that incident, right? So similarly, if there is any other, I'll show you another example where we have some more files. Yeah, so entire thing, what is being detonated on the endpoint? Is it spawning PowerShell? Is it executing another command? It is downloading maybe Mimikatz, breaking, credential dumping, whatever is happening, that is happening on the endpoint. But it collaborates the details from the endpoint telemetry as well, right? So I would like to show you that. Give me just a second. I have another detection I want to present. Okay. Well, this is another detection, right? So let's say on this system, this user was logged in, and after there was a PowerShell. So if you see what is the PowerShell script which was executed, so this entire string of command which you see, this was executed on the endpoint for the credential dumping and so on and so forth, right? Mimikatz was used. So I can do multiple things. So let's say if I don't want this, I can simply remove this if this is not a part of my investigation or I don't think this is relevant, right? I can remove this as well. If there is any file, I want the more details about this file, and I have, I have some enrichment, the intelligence source or any other enrichment I have embedded into it. I can, once I click there, it will give me the option like what are the other enrichments which are available. And if I need, for example, we have submitted the file to Sandbox, I want to add this, I can add it. I want to add more details, I can add it. So it is going to tell me, okay boss, this is like, making a reverse TCP connection to one of the source which originated from Meterpreter, right? So it's a targeted attack from Meterpreter. So these are various malware related details or the information, what is being executed and who is responsible behind those files, right? And if you see here, this again we have something which is out of the box over here, right? And if I click on this is my Palo Alto firewall is giving me this data. And if I go here, it is making some correction, and this is my endpoint. So possibly this is one of the either offline endpoint or something which is unprotected endpoint, right? Think of a scenario, let's say if one of your vendor or partner who is coming to your organization doing some stuff, or even MSSP partner, they have their own set of devices which are not managed by you, and you don't know which kind of protection suits they are using, but they are connected to your environment, your network. If something happens from their environment, initiated from their systems coming into your environment, you will have that level of visibility. And where the Falcon sensor is there, we call them managed assets or the managed endpoints. Where we do not have the sensor, we call them unmanaged, right? So if you look into this, we are seeing some data which is coming from the Palo Alto, and they are saying that, okay, there is a possible indicator that we have detected, right? And it is ending up on this IP, and end of the day, maybe this system which is unprotected system. But you have that visibility. Now you can investigate further on this asset, like who it belongs to, and you can take some action on this. But this is not managed by Falcon endpoint, so that's the reason you don't see what are the other activities which are happening, which you can actually see it on these systems which are happening. This one, right? So it gives you that collaborated detail, like information about how you can interact, how you can work together on various other aspects. So I can add a note which I was talking about. I can tag somebody to work on this. Maybe Sylvan is my colleague. Maybe I can add him that please look into whatever. So I can, if I add this comment, that particular user will going to receive an email notification as well with a link. So if they click on that link, they will directly land on this page, right? So multiple way to interact and work on this workbench. Another thing which I want to highlight here is this timeline part. Sometime when we are investigating, we don't know what is the first step or the first action which was taken by the adversary and which is the last one, right? So this view actually gives that visualization how the entire flow might have happened. So if I go here, you will see this indicator will pop up. If you see, these are grayed out right now, right? So at this timeline, maybe those indicators were not working at that point of time. It was not a part of the incident. But if you if you go ahead with this in this timeline, you will be able to see different activity. For example, see here. Somewhere here the Palo Alto detected something, right, in this timeline. So again, over here something happened. So you can actually pivot around and you can see at what timeline, what other things have happened. So it will give you that visibility, what happened first, what happened last, right? In the incident response, when we are doing any response activity, the timing is very, very important. And to track that time is something very critical, because we also need to mention that in our incident report, right? So every activity, either it is lateral movement or the initial access, if you see there is a timeline. How we are receiving that information, is it from network, is it from endpoint, is it from some other source? So from where you are receiving that information, that is mentioned, the details of the user, display name and all the technique is also mentioned, and you can see all the timeline which is mentioned here. So if you see, this is a network, so initially it happened from the network and so on and so forth. So collaborative way of working on an incident. Once we have worked, again you have a lot of automation to take some response action. You can directly pivot it from here. You don't need to manage any SOAR collaboration. I'll show you a couple of other, there are a lot of out of the box playbooks, but you always have a provision to create your custom playbooks based on your requirements, right? If you look here, let's say I'm working on the incident, but I kind of made some error and I do not want to make those changes. I do not want to have those changes in my incident workbench. I always have the option to, for example, here this is my current version, and it will populate the other versions when the changes were made to the original workbench. And we can definitely use this to restore to a earlier version. So if I restore it, all the changes which I have made before that timeline will roll back, right? Sometime if any corrections we need to make, we can always have that option to make those corrections. We can take out, the output in a file, or in a we can, once we have worked on this incident, we can take the output. We can also download the JSON format. We can also adjust the graph and a lot of other capabilities around. And this is something which, again, interaction with the Charlotte AI will help. If you have this Charlotte AI, because this is a separate module, it works for all the solutions that CrowdStrike provides. And it will take some time to analyze the entire incident, because it's a huge thing, a lot of other things. And it will give some suggestions. I'll see if the other detection have the already popped up suggestion, because it is going to take time. It will help you with some missing parts in that investigation. For example, if the data is also moving, the lateral movement is happening from one system or another system, you are failed to identify. The Charlotte AI will identify that, and it will give you the option that you want to include that in this workbench or not. Right? Let me see if I have any other where. See here. So it will give you the summary of the incident, right? At what time, what happened, what are the things, it started over command and control center or whatever. So this system, executed suspicious thing on this system. So whatever it has found, based on the timeline and the events, it will kind of monitor everything. It will create a summary report for you. And it will give you the suggestion. Let's say if there is an additional host is being found, which is a managed host, and there is a possible, like a lateral movement. It will give you the option you want to accept that suggestion or not. If you accept that suggestion, it will include that into your workbench. It will add that system. If there is any other thing which we have found, like this is our demo setup, so you will only find the IPs or the assets. But if there is any other behavior which is being triggered or detected, the Charlotte AI will detect that and it will give you that option to include that suggestion or not. It is any which way is giving you all the summary that you need for working on the incident. If I go here again, all the enrichment part which I talk about, if we have sent the file to sandbox, or we have integrated the sources from other intelligence sources and stuff like that, it will show here which we can add it during our analysis. You can also I was talking about the reporting part, right? So once you have worked on an incident, how long it takes for you to create a report and submit. There's another 2 days or 3 days task, and will take, or give me 1 week time and I will submit the report on the next Friday end of the day. Here, whatever you have worked on, Charlotte AI is there. If it is there, it will help you. If it is not there, you can still create the report just by having a one click. It will have that graph view, and it will have everything that you have added, your comments, whosoever worked and whosoever made the comments. You don't need to manage any Google Sheet to keep updating your investigation, and finally the team lead should compile it together. But here you will already have all the separate analysts, whatever the comments they have made, you will have that. You will have the entire IOCs which were covered, timeline view, and everything you will already have with this report. What you can do is you can just download it from here. It will come in the PDF format. And let's say there is any specific information I do not want to include, right? Maybe it's our custom analyst comments which you don't want to have it because they are not very formally formatted. It's a casual comment. So I can simply hide that information. It will not come in your report. Similarly, you have something called IP addresses, host names. So in the coming times, we are coming up with an option to hide this information. For example, you want to show there is an IP, but you don't want to expose that IP in your report because you don't know where the report is going. So in that way, you can simply hide it. But as of now, you have the option to either choose or unchoose that options that are available. Right. So this is one of the things which I find is very, very helpful, because I have been into that stage of creating the report, and that really a very, very time-consuming part. Right. So this is how we can interact, collab, work together on an incident with my team together. Right. So this is something I have never seen in any of the solution, in my personal experience at least. I really like this part. Another part is how quickly you are able to search for something. Okay, one more thing I missed here. Let's say I'm working on this incident. Let's say maybe I find a user. I want to do some search on this user, like if this user is being found anywhere else, and other stuff. I can simply go here. It gives me that the basic view, but I like the advanced search option. So it gives me a query, or it gives me the provision to have that query builder here, and I can see all the events that are popped up for that particular user. I can further drill down, I can further customize my query, and I can write a lot of stuff. I can use my existing queries which I might have saved it for any other activity, or maybe some IOC lookup I want to run on a particular user. I can do those stuff. The timeline view, we can change it. We can have some preset timeline view. So while I'm working on the incident, I have the option to just have that screen where I can search and add my investigation to the workbench. Right? It requires a little bit of skills, because the L2 engineers would understand this part. The threat hunting capability requires certain skills to fetch the data, but you have the option to quickly search it, and once you have found the details, you can add it to your workbench very quickly. Apart from that, you also have an option here itself for the advanced search. So if you go to this advanced search, you will end up in a page like this. So you can You can create multiple queries here. This is your raw telemetry data which is coming here. You can see, you can change the time frame or the time window. And you can also see if it is your first party data or a third party data. So first party data is multiple other solutions from CrowdStrike. Third party data is which is not a CrowdStrike own data, which we have ingested from other sources, right? So you can filter it out on that basis on, a lot of other filters are there. This is your raw data which is coming in the JSON format. But if you click on this data, so this is the parsed events in that data. And at any point of time, if you want to search anything specific, let's say if this is an IP, I want to check anything explicit for this IP. If I click on this, it is automatically added to my search query. So it is very easy to build the queries as well. So I will not spend time on creating the query, but you can save those queries. For example, if I see here, we have option to save the query, right? We can save the query, we can move it to a dashboard wizard, and we can have other view over here. Whenever I write a query, I have other options like how the query should look like. It should give me a time view, output. If it is compatible with the pie chart, I'll get the pie chart and so on and so forth. Let's see if we have any query which we can run. Computer name, the domains. So it's basically a Sankey view, but not in a good way. So let me try to run some other query. So the best part over here is you will find a significance difference in the speed that you run a query. Even if it is a complex query, you are looking out for something. You can highlight with different color coding if it is a critical. If it is a high, you can have a different color coding. There is a particular query you can write which will give you on the fly. It will decode the encrypted PowerShell. Lot of time we have seen when there is an incident, attacker will use some sort of encrypted, either it's a PowerShell or JavaScript or whatever. They will use some kind of encrypted stuff to run, which will run directly into the memory. So the first thing, it is very difficult to capture something on the memory. I'll try to see if I can give you some examples for that. But it's very difficult to capture something which is running live in the memory and then adding the entire P files or the whatever the changes, it can make it directly to the registry. So there is nothing saved on the disk. So any of the signature based solution will fail on that part, definitely, right? But it will capture those events, and after capturing those events, when you search it, you can write a query which will on the fly also decode that PowerShell it will give you. For example, there is any IPs, it is making a call home connection to any IP. If the obfuscated PowerShell is decoded right in front of you, you know which IP it is communicating to, right? So a lot of things you can do it on the fly. There is another option for the dashboards also. You can create, you can create multiple dashboards out of it. For example, there are a couple of detections created for information that you get it from Okta. Some threat hunting dashboards is there. Lol bins are living off the land binaries. This term is used when there is a separate page on the GitHub for the lol bins. Any files which are native files used for any malicious behavior. So those comes into this category, and this is very hard to find, very hard to detect. And this is where our threat hunting team is focusing on, that if the attacker is using any lol bins to do some damage into your environment, they will detect it and give it to you. So that is the additional human layer, human-led iterative search continuously 24/7 happening on your environment, right? So that also works on your third-party telemetry. There are Palo Alto dashboards, so Mimecast dashboards. So you can create multiple dashboards. Let's try to see here if we have some. No. So these are one of the dashboard created for Okta. The Okta dashboard you can see. So it will give you all the connection status, the user location, severity, and so on and so forth. Identity is becoming one of the major things, like either you need to have one of the other solution for the identity part. So you can create multiple dashboards like this. It will give you the severity, stuff like that. So this is how you know which maybe it's an internal IP making communication to external IP. So this kind of things you can create for the Sankey view. This is the heat map view. This is again a chart view. I think these are tactics and techniques, how they are mapped together. So various other visualization you can create that will give you a quick visibility of the outcomes from all the data that you are ingesting. So again, this is your user logon activity, right? So without creating any correlation rule, without having any third-party data, if we just have the sensors, the login event details, when the password was last reset, what is the username, the IPs, remote IP. So all those things we can collect it. Telemetry is all about seeing whatever information is there in the, for example, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say there are 2 CCTV cameras, right? One camera give me the output in a VGA format and it can all, record up to like distance up to 10 meters, and I can only have a basic output and there is no night vision, nothing. It is still called a CCTV camera. But there is another camera which has a night vision, which gives the HDA output, which can view up to 15-20 meters and it can record the events. So both are called CCTV camera, but the pricing will be different because their capabilities are different. So whenever you do any EDR evaluation or you try to find it out what the EDR is capable of, do check out what is the capability of that EDR. The amount of events the EDR can monitor or can read is their capability. For example, if there is an event, if there is a EDR, if there is a malware making a registry modifications, if the EDR is not able to look or read that, it will not be able to give you that details, right? It should be able to understand. So EDRs are nothing but a CCTV camera for your endpoint. It will keep on recording the information. You use that recorded information for various other outputs, right? So that is the basics of EDR. This is something I want to highlight here is, remember I have shown you that ball, half ball, where the second point was identity, threat and protection. Lot of solutions are there in the market for identity control. For example, privileged user, when to give the access, how to give the access, on what resources you need to give the access. But end of the day, it is the access which is going. And if somebody is requesting that access who is a malicious user or it's an adversary doing that request, if it is coming from the legitimate way, you will eventually allow it. The tool will allow it. So all the PIM-PAM solution which I think are more from the identity governance point of view, not from the identity security point of view. So there is a difference. So this identity protection module, if you see here, what this does is it gives you a health score or the health state of your Active Directory. So if I ask you today, do you know how many accounts and how many service accounts you have in your Active Directory? Does anybody have the concrete answer for that? Areva. So, and what is the stage, what is the status of those accounts when the password was reset, why it was created? Most of the time we forget about the service accounts, right? So it will give you a hygiene state of your entire Active Directory, the identities which are there in the AD, the score trend, the risk matrix, consequences versus how critical it is, right? And all the entities like what you have in your AD. It will also give you a snippet of attack path, like what are the major areas of concern. Attack path to privilege account. If there is an HR system getting compromised, how quickly the attacker can gain access to the administrator account, or how quickly he can get access to your domain controllers. So that is the attack path visualization. We give some recommendation how to remediate that, and definitely there are a lot of details. If I click here, it will take you to the details pane, or okay, these two are those systems from where they can directly communicate or connect to your domain controller. So maybe you want to make sure these are highly protected, or you have the endpoints which are running well on this, right? So similarly, if there is any inadequate password policy, SMB is disabled or not. So a lot of things, duplicate password. A lot of places I have seen we use, so when a new user logs in, he gets a default login password which he needs to change it, right? But sometimes we admins, what we do is we create a common password for admin123 or something like that. Now we are changing that, but eventually that was the case. So maybe next time the user will change the password, he will say admin1234. Something similar, but and same, I am also using the same password, and somebody else is also following the same mindset, and he is also using the same stuff. We, from the security background, we understand that, and we kind of modify and keep a complex one, but not everybody is the same in the organization, right? So it checks for all those things. Secondly, from the visibility perspective, it gives you the visibility of all the, I think I need to change the tenant, but it will give you the details about the privilege account. So when we say privilege, it can be any administrative account, right? So it will give you the details about if there is any administrative account set to password never expired, if there is any assets which are available in the dark web. So your password is compromised. Some user who logged into your organization is also logging into some application, some Make My Trip or any other thing from where the same credentials are stolen. They can be used here, because not everybody is keeping the same password a lot of places, and they can use your email, the same organization email ID. I have seen that. I remember, I think 2-3 weeks ago, I was with one of my customer where we were talking about the same identity protection, and in the dark web, I checked with their domain name. There was one user, and we also found the password. He said, let me try it, because maybe the user have changed the password, maybe this is irrelevant to them. Most of the time it can happen, but that was the latest breach, and he was able to log in using that stolen password to that one of the critical application, right? So that was really a serious concern, which even I was able to see that. So let's say I'm looking into any passwords which are compromised. I'll get the details of that. So I see most of the time it's a service accounts, but I can also get the user account, and I can deep dive onto that. If I want further more details on this, I can, it will tell me the score is 8.7, it is monitored, it's a privilege, it's a service account, and it is compromised, right? I can definitely go further deep dive into this in case I want. How much time we have? I think 10 more minutes. I'll just work on this and then we'll conclude the session, right? So you'll get the details about any account. It can be service or it can be anything. If you go to about, you will come to know when it was created, right? The created date and time. If it is service account or it's a human account, when the password was changed, what privilege this account has, and it will also show what are the groups this user is a member of. I remember in one of the place they have one user called AV admin, and that was created when they were using Symantec like 8 years ago, and they were using the same username and the password was a generic one, like something similar to admin123. So if you go to the activities, it will show you all the activities. Basically this is the demo, it will not pop up, but it will show you all the services it is accessing, doing LDAP to the DC or whatever. So it will give you all the details of the origin as well. Logged in, it will show you the map from where the user have logged in last and login history. But if you go to the risk, it will tell you individual risk for that particular account. What are the risks associated with this particular account? So it also shows that it has a duplicate password. So the same password somebody else is also using it. So all it is present in the compromise and all other stuff. And it will also give you the timeline when it logged in, where it logged in, and all those stuff. So it's a good to know information. It gives you the hygiene state of all the accounts that you have in your AD and how you can act on this, right? Another important thing what this tool does is, it gives you the visibility of all the attacks, and it controls that as well, which are happening from your initial compromised system to your AD. You must have heard a lot of terms around it, like Kerberos King attack, golden ticketing, yellow ticketing, even man in the middle, as simple as brute force. So these are the targeted attacks happen from your initial compromised system to your AD once it gains some kind of administrative privileges, right? So we kind of detect and prevent those kind of attacks, which is the identity-based incident under this, you can say it. And you can see all the activities which we can detect and prevent from those kind of attacks. If I go into the details, you can see the entire chain of things, how the attack actually happened. So there is a RDP to a particular system from this user, how the credential was used, So a lot of details you have around all the activities which happened, and this user has access to all those assets. If there is a suspicious protocol enumeration, policy rule matches, a lot of details you will get it. And if it is any attack which is relevant to Kerberos King or golden ticketing, etc., we also track that, and it will highlight you here that this is relevant to that particular attack chain, right? So this way you will get the complete details about the entire attack path. So this we run it in a detection mode, so it detects all the things, but in the prevention mode it will actually prevent the initial attempt to compromise any activity. So this is the second thing you get. So first thing was visibility on the hygiene state of the entire AD stuff. Second is how you can control, how we can prevent those kind of attack to your domain controllers. And then let's say if you have found some risk, let's say I have a compromised password, what should I do about it, right? So we can create a policy. So there is an option called policy rule. You can create your own policy, and we have a lot of templates available as well, right? So multiple templates are available. So if I want to block RDP to service account, right? So this is one of the things which we need to have it. So service account, we are mostly unaware about it. So we can create a rule that whenever there is an attempt from any service account to take an RDP, simply block it. If I don't want to block it, I can have different other option. I can, for example, I can integrate with my MFA, and I can enforce an MFA that whenever some attempt happen, you trigger an MFA. If it is a legitimate user, he will feed in the authentication and he will get an access. Similarly, we can create multiple, so this is one of the policy which was created. If you see here, the action is audit. So we are just auditing, we are not blocking it, right? I can enforce the MFA, I can block it. So these are the various actions I can take. So similarly, if there is any, I'm not able to see it properly. So if you see any privilege account logging from unmanaged system where the sensor is not there, that system is not protected, but somebody is trying to log in from that, what you should do? Either you monitor it or enforce an MFA. So you have that visibility and you have that control whether I want to allow that or not, right? Another example is, let's say if there is a administrator logging in from, I'm an administrator, I always log in from this laptop. So the system will create a baseline for me that, okay, this is the behavior. I log in from this location, or within India, I log in from multiple other cities and I do this activity, right? If I deviate from that baseline, let's say all of a sudden I log in from, Russia, all of a sudden I log in from China, and that too within a short interval of time which is humanly not possible to travel. The system will identify that, okay, this is a breach in my baseline and what I need to do. I can create a policy that, okay, enforce the MFA. So if I'm a legitimate user, I will feed that MFA details and I will get the access. So there are multiple such rules are there. So what you do with, if you are a detector with a compromised password, right? I want to block it, I want to enforce a rule that user will get a prompt to reset the password, right? So that also we can do it. So first one was visibility, second is prevention on that on certain type of attack, third is how you can create an enforcement rule to limit your risk factor that you have identified, right? Couple of other things are also there. For example, you can get a report for different other stuff. A lot of things are there. Stealthy user, deleted user, stall user, compromised password, and all those things. You can configure it, you can get it in your mailbox. You have the option to do a threat hunting for the identity. So there is no solution. I have not seen anything where you can do a hunting on the identity. But whatever the identities are there, you can search it with the event type. For example, if there is any specific event I want to search, I want to check the failed logins on my domain controller, or any Kaspersky authentication I want to see, SSO login I want to see, I can hunt for that, I can check. This helps in any sort of incident, and when there is a user involved in that particular incident. I can check for a particular identity. In my SIM we have found, okay, there is a particular user which was there. I can type the name of that user and I can check for, what are the other system that user has, got access to. Again, endpoint source, so it also include all the endpoints as well. It gives the visibility, not only the asset but the endpoints as well, right? So so this is how the identity is sort of a requirement in today's threat landscape, and how we can collab with the identity and the SIM together. So we have like few minutes, but I want to take a pause and answer if you have any questions. Everybody's got bored, huh? But how did you find it? It was like something. So all the members who are working on the SOC, so is there any difference that you see in the CrowdStrike SIM solution which popped up? Great to know. Hanji sir, you have any mic? बताइए sir.
Okay, I can speak. बुलंद करते हैं आवाज अपनी. So AI again is revolutionizing the SOC management. My question is on that. While onboarding, we have a challenge on data coming from various systems, apps. So log format, data structure. How CrowdStrike is helping up in order to ensure the capability, compatibility, scalability. That is number one question. Number two is, these days we are talking more about AI, but the bad elements, they are 2 steps ahead and they are going to exploit it on the flip side. How CrowdStrike is going to help us in that. Number third, we are talking about Gen AI and all of these things. Though I am assuming CrowdStrike is using this from quite years, are you shifting towards adaptive AI as well, considering the nature of data is dynamic?
Okay. So first thing first, how it's about the data ingestion part, right? So we have a good amount of connectors. I don't remember the numbers that we have. Connectors which you can simply enable the connector. It automatically has the parser and everything. It will, if it is any cloud source, you can simply feed in the API and it will ingest. If it is something like a legacy firewall, which we need to get it through a syslog server or something, you can define a syslog server. From there we can ingest the data, and usually that is through a HEC connector. HTTP event forwarder connector is there. Basis on the type of sources, we have different parsers. We have the option here to create custom parser. The solution is capable to ingest the parsed data, for example, the process data and unstructured data too. So it will not give you any error that, okay, I don't understand this data and I will refuse to ingest it. So that is the beauty of Humio as a solution, that it will ingest structured and unstructured data both. But when we want to take some meaningful outcome from that data, we definitely need to parse the data accordingly. So when we search, hunt, and do multiple other stuff, we have something to search from, right?
Data quality is maintained, basically.
Yes, data quality is maintained. The raw data as it comes, it is maintained, right? And data onboarding, since CrowdStrike has started this, it is a journey, right? And in this journey, we have a lot of things in place, but every month, every quarter, we are giving more power to the tool. For example, if we don't have connected today, maybe in the next 3 months, we have the connector for that. So it's a journey where CrowdStrike has already started. You also ask about the difference, or I would say how you get the meaningful outcome from this, right? From a very long time, we are definitely relying on the correlation rules to have the data outcome. But CrowdStrike, what we are doing differently here is, although we have the option for the correlation rule and you can create your own and do a lot of other stuff, but we are mostly doing something which is our IOAs, indicator of attack. That is something which technology, the kind of technology that we use in the backend, which makes some meaningful outcome, and that is what the CrowdStrike internal threat hunting team also uses. So that we are giving it to all our customers. So you will not see that somewhere, but it is in the backend which is running and processing your data running on that. The question regarding the generative AI, yes, it can be used for the good stuff and it can be used for the bad stuff, and how we are utilizing that is up to us. I remember when we were educated about Scattered Spider, which is a threat actor who was exploiting the cloud infra, they were majorly using the generative AI to generate, to automate the tools, to create automated scripts and a lot of other stuff. So it's not only with one adversary, it's with every adversary. They are also using various type of automation, generative AIs, which even something which we are unaware of, right? They have their own set of things, and definitely it is being abused. So what CrowdStrike is doing is, because we have that intelligence information, because we are monitoring the behavior of adversaries, we are continuously enriching or training our AI modules with that huge data. And we are not training from today, we are training since like past 12 years. So AI is basically when you train that algorithm, when you train that module with the huge amount of data, that is how the AI will become more efficient.
Is there any risk of hallucinations in that case? Because it is basically according to your trained that.
See, I would like to say there are plus and minus. It's again about what kind of data you are feeding and how you are training them, right? If it is a high fidelity data and they are getting trained out of that, definitely the outcome will be very positive. And in my experiences, in my personal experience, I have worked with multiple companies. I was working with a company where I was writing a malware detections, doing a reverse engineering of the malware and stuff like that. So I have seen various other areas before joining or working with CrowdStrike. So I see that difference. The false positive ratio is very, very low, I would say 0. The only time we detect something genuine is when the behavior are similar with something which adversary has used. For example, if there is any game application will monitor your mouse and the keyboard movement, and the something similar a keylogger will also do, right? So in that sense, we might detect and we will say that, okay boss, this we have detected because of this. And if you are sure about that, okay, no boss, this is my application, I am aware of this, you can one click, you just create an exclusion for that specific behavior, not for the entire file, not for the entire directory, not for other behavior of that file, but for a particular file, for a particular behavior, right? So any other, if there is any other keylogger later we detected, we will detect the same behavior for the other files as well. So that's how we are differentiating with the kind of technology that we use. There can be a long debate on this, yes and no, but I think we have a limited time. So I can say that yes, there is always a scope of improvement, but the way I see, CrowdStrike has tremendously improvised on that. And having that high fidelity data, the kind of intelligence information we have the threat hunters. Even as a security company, we have been targeted almost every day. So we know how the things are happening, right? So when we are in that situation, in a very compromised situation than our customer, we know that scenario better. And that's something where we are able to defend ourselves, we are replicating and giving the same information to our customers.
First of all, thanks for the detailed presentation, Gurdeep.
Thank you, thank you.
And can you please tell us in detail about, in second presentation you talked about advisory-based detection.
Which one, sorry?
Advisory-based detection.
Advisory-based?
Yes.
Okay.
So I just want to know about in detail.
Adversaries or
adversaries?
Adversaries, yeah.
Yes. Adversaries-based detection.
So, it's not adversary-based detection, it's more of an adversary-driven.
Okay.
So our approach is something like, let me try to break it down. So if we are going on a fight, let's say, there are two countries fighting, and if we know the attackers' techniques, what weapons they have, what kind of destruction they can do, what kind of, ammunitions they have, we are in a position, if we have that intelligence information, and if we know about the attackers, right, maybe we can stop the war before it even begins. Secondly, even if the war happens, we are in a better position to defend ourselves and to have the counter-attack. We know precisely what to do, what kind of tools or what kind of weapons we need to have to counter that, right? Similar approach, we use it over here. So we learn from the adversaries what they do on a daily basis. We are being attacked, we know that data. We give that data for our customers also. I have been working with many other security companies. In the core team, when I say core team, it's the labs or where we do the malware analysis and threat hunting kind of a capability. There are only few people, they monitor one or two adversaries, right? And that information is very kind of unique. They usually don't share that details, or they post it on their personal blog post or maybe on the company post. But that is very specific, and you really need a highly skilled analyst or the engineers for that, right? So they monitor those adversaries, but it's not possible for an individual to monitor, huge amount of adversary group. CrowdStrike on the other end, we give that details to our customer also, that we have these many adversaries doing this activity, exploiting these vulnerabilities. This is the technique they have done. And we have a unique proprietary something you have seen in there mentioned about the threat graph, right? So threat graph is a graph technology. What we do is we ingest all the telemetry and we make some meaningful outcome from that. For example, when you have that huge amount of data, first of all, humanly it is not possible to make any sense out of it. And then you connect those dots and make some meaningful outcome. If there is something, I think we are going out of the topic, but let's say there is something called known unknown, unknown known, and there is something called unknown unknowns, right? So something which can be exploited, you have not received that signature or the prevention or the patch, but everybody knows about it. So that is known unknown stuff, right? So somebody knows, but you don't know. But there is something called unknown unknown, something which is not discovered yet. Even if you talk about the zero-day technology that we see in a lot of endpoints that they have, backend it's a snot tool which was the old IPS. That has a dependency on the rules. If you don't have the rule to protect against certain behavior, you will get compromised, right? There will be nothing to protect against that. So CrowdStrike on the other hand uses threat graph to detect the unknown unknowns, something which is not identified yet, and that is possible because we have all the rich telemetry, and upon that intelligence and all those stuff, we make some meaningful outcome from that, and then we identify, is that true? Is that right? And then we have the iOS which works on the endpoints.
Thank you. And Sorry, one more. I know it's very usual, but how this platform is gonna help? Every day nowadays everybody asks, whether it's from my management or customer or client, 0-day attack, right? So I know it's usual, but can you please tell us brief how this platform is gonna help us to detect and prevent 0-days attacks?
Very good question. I can elaborate on that answer as long as possible.
Yeah.
I'll give a very, very quick answer because I think the time is up and I'm getting that indication. That is because of the technological differences. Traditionally, technology was, okay, you have this, something got compromised, you get the sample out of it. Not the iOS, not the hash number, actual file. Once we have the file, it submits to that AV company, they analyze it, they decode it, they create a signature that was tested, it goes out in the wild, your endpoint receive it, and then you have the prevention. And this gap between you receive compromise, ek to ho chuka hai. So if the compromise there, I know the tools to exploit this, and similarly I can exploit other companies as well. And then there is a time taken which can deviate from 5 days to 2 days, but at least the signature that you will get it today, that will always be a yesterday's signature, it will not be today's signature. Because it is created yesterday, tested, and then it was published and you're getting it. So we don't have any signature, right? And our IOA technology, the thread graph, all those things combination together, we prevent something unknowns that is further beyond the 0-day. 0-day is something you have not received it, but it is there. Right?
Actually it is not 0-day.
Yeah.
So one
last question I'll take from
okay,
this
I
gentleman.
can.
Sorry, yeah, please go
You were
ahead.
talking about the 4 minutes, right? I mean, the quickest search you can perform. So I just wanted to understand that.
Let me correct you. That was a MITRE result for mean time to detect. How quickly you are able to detect and respond.
All right.
All right.
So
the search query result which we have, I can explain you further how this thing works. How you process the logs is something different in our solution than you compare with any other solution in the market. So that's the reason it is 150x faster when you do a search query.
So that is what I would like to know. What technology or mechanism you are using to perform that search faster? How come it is more, faster than your competitor?
I would certainly answer you, but that will take a long explanation.
Right.
So we can discuss over the...
Sure.
Hope that is okay.
No problem at all.
One last question from
Last
this gentleman.
question.
Yeah.
I know.
Very quickly, yeah. So thank you very much for your session. Yeah. So when you introduce AI, Charlotte AI, yeah, so there are a lot of data privacy concerns that come in, because if you're going to use my data and feed it into Charlotte AI LLM, right? So there has to be certain level of data ingestion, training, that will happen. So how is that privacy? There are certain concerns with privacy. Data privacy, because you're going to use my company's data, and Charlotte AI is going to analyze based on their model and come up with certain output, right? And on the back of it, do you use that data for other customers as well? For example, if you use the AI to learn something on the data that my company was using, and there was certain learning that was achieved, right? So would that learning be used for other customers as well? So something around data privacy. Yeah.
Right. First thing, Falcon collects only the raw telemetry. So it's not the actual file or the actual data, right? So that is one thing. Again, there can be a lot of debate among you take this or not. That is basis on certain frameworks and certain compliance formats that we can have a detailed discussion. But coming back to your question again, that when we receive the data, if let's say you got access to the console, only you as a company, whosoever is the administrator or the authorized person to log into the console, have access to that data. Even not, the CrowdStrike will not be able to read your data as such, right? That is one. So your data is accessible by you and you only, unless you are subscribing to our threat hunter services. So when you subscribe to our threat hunting service or the Falcon Complete, where we manage your environment, you're actually giving that agreement. We are signing a agreement between us that we will use this data to help you and we will work for you to access this data. So that is also with your permission and with your, some documents are signed for that. Then we don't use that data to send it to other customer or to take some meaningful outcome which will be shared to the other customer. But what is happening is that data is enriched by our thread graph, right? So thread graph module is getting any which way string because that is required to give you or to understand your environment and give you a proactive, the IOA's part, or I would say the proactive prevention that is required. So that is the backend technology. But your data is your data. Even CrowdStrike cannot access unless you authorize us to do so, right? So I think we can conclude the session here. I'm already getting a lot of signs to complete. We are out of time. But thank you so much for being patient. I hope it was sensible and it makes some sense out of it, right? So do reach out to me if you have any question. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's give a big round of applause to Gurdeep. Great session. Perfect. We were supposed to end at 12 o'clock. It is 12:15. Lunch is already on. Okay? So thank you very much everyone for joining. Your blockchain-based certificate of participation will be sent over email that you can use as your CPE certificate. Okay? Everybody knows what is access token, right? And your access token is your badge. What color badge is that? Yellow. So once you go out of the room, your access token expires. Right? Then you cannot come back in. So the morning track is just till lunch, and after that we need to clear this room and we'll have a second track of CIO CISOs. So thank you very much for joining in. Have lunch and thanks. Okay?